Let's take a look at some charts on NEO for this week's article on Brave New Coin. So it's a good idea to compare coins based on their consensus algorithm or their functionality, that sort of thing. Are they smart contract? Are they dApps related? Are they an asset? Are they a coin? Are they a fork of something? So I always like to look at everything together and say, okay, who's the leader here? Let's be objective. Let's compare all these together. Now you have to know certain things about daily transaction volumes and fees to understand why are fees higher on some chains than others. Is it scalability? Is it usage? If we compare transactions per day and fees, for instance, we get an interesting picture here. Tron's transactions are in the millions and there's no fees on the chain. So it's pretty clear what's going on here. If transactions are free, then transactions per day for Tron, for Tron, probably don't even matter. So it's interesting to know what you're looking at and to understand what's going on. Same with the daily active addresses for Tron. So for NEO specifically, similar to Zcash, for some reason, I don't know why the total daily transaction volume is so high. Because if you look at NEO, it looks dead. It looks ready to just go into the oblivion and disappear with the other 2014 coins. If you don't know anything at all about NEO, it was actually a resurrected chain called Ant Shares, and it remains super centralized. The NEO Foundation owns most of the coins. They control 5 of the 7 consensus nodes. So there's no way you can look at NEO and say it's decentralized. It just isn't. Now, they've acknowledged this and said for years that they're going to be shifting towards a decentralized model. So we'll see if that ever happens. So even though NEO's 4th by market cap, it kind of isn't anywhere on any of the other metrics here. And I don't even know if this daily transaction volume is real. Similar to these transactions per day on Tron, there's just no way that they're all legitimate. I'm sure they're non-organic, goosed, fake, a scam, whatever adjective you want to use there. Just not real. Here's the NEO Foundation funds. One interesting litmus test for me is, does a coin have a foundation? If it has a foundation, it's probably not decentralized because they control governance to some degree. They control the decision making to some degree. Now, early on, there was a Bitcoin Foundation, which has since dissolved. Never had control of anything really, other than attempting to persuade governance issues, I guess, a little bit. But NEO, like I said, NEO Foundation owns 45% of all circulating supply of NEO. They control 5 of the 7 consensus nodes. They have a massive war chest that they're sitting on. I think I said in the article it's at around 400 million. They're sitting on a ton of BTC. They're sitting on a ton of NEO, obviously. But they have a lot of money. So I don't think they're going to disappear anytime soon from that perspective, unless they say, we're going to just refund investors BTC or something similar to the Digex DAO. I don't see that happening because there is some development on the code side. So it's not like it's completely dead from that perspective. It's just dead in the perspective that it's super centralized and really no one's using it that I can see. It's been years of just downward trending metrics on every way you slice it. Again, if we compare all the dApp platforms and we say, just without looking at which platforms have like active dApps or a minimum volume per week or anything, this is just number of registered dApps either on dApp Radar or NEO's dApp website. And there's a clear difference here. Again, Tron, I don't trust any metric on anything for Tron, but regardless, EOS and Tron are up there. ETH is just, above and beyond everything else. But NEO is in this class of fledgling dApp platforms that have seemingly failed to gain any traction over time. That's not to say that they won't eventually. It's just there's no there right now with NEO and many of these other chains. Some of these I'd never even heard of. IOST, for example, ONT. Yeah, it's just interesting to compare everything together. So here's transactions per day and average transaction values in the fill here. You can see transactions per day basically flat since January 2019. My guess is most of this stuff in here isn't necessarily real and was probably when they were either trying to like pump on-chain metrics with fake transactions or something. I know that's completely speculative hearsay, conspiracy stuff, but looking at where it was and where it is, it's just night and day. Anytime I see this on any chain, these massive spikes, this is a weekly average, but massive spikes followed by huge dips in metrics don't make any sense. This smooth stuff makes more sense. It makes sense that leading into October, I think there was a price run here to the upside and it just died off. A small price run this year and it's died off. So this is all just speculative stuff. This isn't necessarily economic value of some sort that I can see. That's my opinion, obviously, but that's what I see. Again, daily active address is probably the saddest thing. I think the only sadder daily active addresses picture is Stellar, where it's just hit an all-time high years ago and then just continues to melt down, 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 down. So it's around 2,000 active addresses a day. Extremely low for any chain. Again, I don't think anybody's using this. I think it's just a dead platform. NVT, which is the inverse metric of economic utility, the line here. Very interesting that it hit a massive all-time high. So it was completely oversold historically based on on-chain utility, which is what I've been saying for the past 5 minutes. Dead chain. And then price came back to earth, back to reality into this previous range. The value itself for NVT, I don't really pay attention to too much. It's really about comparing it to previous price history. So, compared to all the other chains, an NVT of 15 would be like, whoa, this is a big buy in a vacuum. But for Neo, it doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme. I think this is because the total daily transaction volume in USD is extremely high and historically has been extremely high. And I think that's why NVT, the number on this chain, has been so low. All right, let's look at technicals. We got Bitfinex open interest, RSI oscillator for momentum, extreme highs and extreme lows, as well as divergences I look at there. Yearly pivots, which are based on math of the previous highs and lows of last year. VPVR, volume profile of the visible range. And we have the 50 and the 200 EMAs here. First thing I notice on the EMAs is similar to Zcash, it's mainly been below the 200 EMA historically. It's finally begun to flatten though over the past year since late 2018. This chart actually looks a lot like ETH if you overlay it. It's got this ascending triangle breakout, this multi-month downtrend, a random spike, a big run, and then March 12th, everything died off again. So as it stands now, it's below this massive support node or resistance node in this case. So there's been a lot of volume in this region, and that's mainly from the ascending triangle breakout here, as well as this bottom, this inverse head and shoulder type thing. So it's below all of that right now. So if it has a chance, it's got to break above 10, basically. The 200's at 10, 1250 is the yearly pivot. So there's a lot of resistance on the way up. No divergences here. Open interest is still net long. It had a massive drop there on March 12th, where longs kind of capitulated or stop losses were hit, something like that. Market maker set them out, whatever it was. It's slowly begun rising again since then, but it did hit an all-time low in price on the USD pair on the 12th. Never a good sign to catch knives for anybody, because you just don't know where that's going. If that's going lower, if this is going to $1, whatever the case may be, it's just a dangerous time to buy weakness when you're seeing multi-year lows, all-time lows, that sort of thing. So there's no support below the previous low. So watch out if it does drop, because it's going to 330 where the yearly pivot is. Upside resistance is at 10, 1250, that sort of thing. Big resistance at 17, which is this previous local high, that sort of thing. As well as this massive descending triangle. So lots of technical stuff here from a chart pattern perspective, from a volume perspective, that makes it easier to trade on the upside because there's price history there. Looking at the cloud, just black and white, bearish, 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 bullish attempt, denied, bearish, into this range, and then massively rejecting any of that to the downside here. So it's got to return again above this 10.35 level for any chance at some sort of bullish continuation, because it just isn't there currently. Historically, it really hasn't been above the cloud, which is another litmus test for being bullish or bearish ever, really. I mean, it had a few months in mid 2019, but it's just been sell, sell, sell. NEO BTC, much of the same, below the 200, below the cloud historically for most of its life. No bullish or bearish divergences here. We did get a multi-month RSI spike to the downside here, which is always a good sign for a bullish reversal just because it's so oversold. I like anything above 0013, which is the daily cloud level. The 200 is there as well. This yearly pivot is what I'd pay attention to if it does break 0013 as well as the 200. So there's a lot of volume history up here. So it's going to have a tough time on the way up. However, that will be one of the only times it's actually performed above the 200. So the really key level for this chart that I'm seeing is 0016. And then the upside is really limited, I think, to around 2500 or 0025 as far as the upside is concerned.